Right. This meeting is being recorded. For some reason, I don't hear the announcement anymore, but if you're like me and didn't hear it. All right, then we are officially calling to order the regular board meeting of Tuesday, March 22nd. Can I get a roll call, please?
Student Trustee Dana?
Here.
Student Trustee Lyra is absent. Trustee Boyd?
Here.
Trustee Davidson?
Here.
Trustee Doss?
Here.
Vice President Duran?
Here.
President Hinckley?
Here.
Superintendent Wells?
Here.
Great, thank you. And for those who would like to join me in reciting the Pledge of Allegiance, sorry, struggling to speak today. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Can we, Trustee Dana, could you read our mission and vision statement, and then maybe one of the board members will read the meeting norms?
Okay. The mission and vision statement of our district is as follows. The mission of Albany Unified School District is to provide excellent public education that empowers all to achieve their fullest potential as productive citizens. AUSD is committed to creating comprehensive learning opportunities in a safe, supportive, and collaborative environment, addressing the individual needs of each student.
Great. Vice President Duran, will you read our meeting norms?
Meeting norms. Number 1, maintain a focus on what is best for our students. 2, ensure a safe environment for all view to be expressed, treating each other, staff, and the public respectfully for all views. 3, endeavor to find common solutions to issues through collaboration without sacrificing one's beliefs in what is best for students. And 4, make a commitment to effective deliberation, each one listening with an open mind, while others are allowed to express their own points of view, even if one disagrees.
Great, thank you. There was no action taken tonight in closed session. We need to approve our agenda, and we do need to make a slight correction. One of the items at the end of our agenda, the A3g Improvement Grant, as it says in the backup, is in fact a review and discussion item. We will not be voting on that grant tonight. It's going to come back to us in April. So if I could get a motion adopting our agenda, but changing that to a review and discussion item, I would appreciate it.
Go ahead.
Go for it, Trustee Davidson.
Okay, I move that we approve the agenda and we adjust the review and action item of the A3g grant to being a review and discussion item.
I second.
Okay, Student Trustee Dana?
Yes.
Trustee Davidson?
Yes.
Trustee Doss?
Yes.
Vice President Duran?
Yes.
President Hinckley?
Yes.
Trustee Boyd?
Yes.
Great. Our agenda is adopted unanimously, and we move to the consent calendar. Are there any questions, comments, or a motion to approve our consent calendar?
I move that we approve our consent calendar for this evening.
I second.
Student Trustee Dana?
Yes.
Trustee Doss?
Yes.
Vice President Duran?
Yes.
President Hinckley?
Yes.
Trustee Boyd?
Yes.
Trustee Davidson?
Yes.
Great. The consent calendar passes unanimously, and we will move to superintendent and board member reports, starting with you, Superintendent Wells.
Thank you, Madam Chair. President Hinckley, Tonight, my superintendent report would start off with a focus on our students. I had the good fortune to attend last night the choir concert known as the annual spring concert. And I was going there expecting a treat, but I wasn't expecting a super treat. We have some amazing kids, and you can see a picture of some of them with some amazing voices and storytelling abilities that was just, I found to be just startling in the best of ways. And the concert was free. And I was surprised that we were not charging, because I would have paid to see this kind of performance. It was awesome. And so for those who missed it, I tell you, you still have an opportunity to catch them next year. And you may hear from them shortly, because they do their annual fundraiser to support them. And many of our programs in the arts are supported through our community kind donations. So I ask that you continue to contribute. And for those who are looking for a good cause, this is a perfect cause. And so again, the Albany High School Spring Choir Concert was last night. It was something to see. If you missed it, you missed something really neat. And it was featuring the Albany High School Chamber Singers, Treble Chinga Ensemble, and Concert Choir. I was just in awe. Hats off to our instructors, our teachers, and the amazing kids. The next slide. Remember, spring break is coming up. April 4th through the 8th, 2022, spring break. We want you to get out there and have fun and travel. And remember, we want you to be safe. And so schools are this year handing out rapid tests, COVID tests, to our families. And we are asking that the families take the test on Sunday before you return back to school, and factor to keep everyone safe. We want you to have some fun, but more importantly, we want you to remain safe. And that concludes my superintendent report, Madam Chair, Superintendent Hinckley, for tonight.
Super. Thank the Lord, I am not actually the superintendent. Thanks, luckily for us all. Thank you.
I have superintendent on my mind, so my apologies.
It's okay. I also just want to say in general how exciting it is to see all these different activities happening. Concerts, went to my first band concert in 2 years. It is really just so lovely to see kids getting to do all this stuff that we took for granted a couple years ago, right? And never thought, oh, how lucky I am to sit in this theater watching my kid, play the clarinet or what have you. So I will say, if you miss these concerts, the Albany Music Fund posts all of them on Facebook, the recordings. So if you weren't there, you can go watch them and then also donate to the Albany Music Fund. So I also just thrilled to see, what we think of as normal life returning on our campuses. And also just wanted to thank staff for all the work that went into putting together the workshop last week on the D's and F's. We have another workshop coming up next week on math. And it also feels good to be digging into a lot of topics that are not about COVID or tests or protocols or what have you. So I know people are really stretched and worn out, and it can be sometimes hard to get that energy to shift gears back to what we used to do a couple of years ago, but it also feels really good. So thanks to everyone who's helping us move these big items forward. And that's it. All I have for a report. Vice President Duran.
Okay. I would just like to second all the staff that has worked on these various reports. I mean, I think the board is pretty demanding in terms of us trying to deal with data. And so I really appreciate from staff at the school site to, in particular, Dr. Shen and others who have been really working hard on providing the information for these workshops. So kudos to all of you. Just two other announcements is the Wellness Committee is looking at, and in particular, Sabina Feinberg and I have been working on a draft to update the Wellness Committee policy. That's really a requirement every 3 years. So we'll be taking that to the Wellness Committee tomorrow. And then in turn, the Policy Committee will absolutely have a chance to give it the look over when we're finished with the draft, and then it will come to the board. And the other thing is the Wellness Committee is working on a wellness activity or activities for the spring. We all need a little bit of extra wellness coming our way, so hopefully the committee is going to be working on something. And finally, the Student Achievement Committee, we're getting closer and closer to doing some outreach to both students and parents regarding student success, and we hope to do that not only by way of surveys, but potentially for forums as well for both parents and students. So that's my report for tonight.
Great, thank you. Trustee Doss.
Thank you. I do not have a report for this evening.
Trustee Boyd.
Thank you. Really briefly second all of the thanks for all of the hard work that's being turned out of our district office, and of course always our teachers and staff. Wish everyone a very joyful and fun and relaxing and safe spring break. And I have to give a small shout out to the choral program. The AMS choirs are actually performing right now. So I do appreciate that it is being recorded so that I can watch my daughter sing later on, and give a thank you to Miss Heisinga, who does a wonderful job with our students and all of the students who performed last night and who are performing tonight. Thank you.
Trustee Davidson.
So I wanted to give a shout out as well. We had our Environmental Action Planning Committee meeting, and we have a new member of our district, Director Scott Jaffe, who has just taken off running and is just so impressive. And I'm really, really feeling fortunate that we have him on our team. I know that there are a lot of maintenance issues, and he is just checking boxes and giving so much care. And it's really nice to see that, because as someone put it to me today, there are a lot of places where our facilities just don't match the level of education that's being delivered. And we are so fortunate with what we have here in Albany. And it's really just, it's heartwarming to see someone come in with all that care and kind of like taking care of our pieces so that our kids can see how much we care about them. I just really wanted to give that specific shout out. And the EAP committee is working hard on a plan so that we have some guiding principles for our district as we move forward. And I just, wanted to thank everybody. Executive Director Richie, who stepped in at Cornell to cover as principal in need, and actually had to meet with my son when he had a challenging day, and he said it was just a really nice experience. So I really appreciate that. In addition to everything else you're doing, you were willing to step in there and fill those shoes. And, Superintendent Wells did that so he could send his principals to some training. And so it's really amazing to watch how our district staff is like, let me take off this hat, put on this hat, let me do this role, I'll do that role. And I really just appreciate seeing that. And I'm also just very grateful that I feel like we're in a position right now where we can get back to doing some of those things. So thank you all very much.
Great, thank you. Student Board Member Dana.
Yeah, I'd just like to third, or whatever number it is, all of the appreciation to the staff that's been putting together all the data. I so appreciate it, and I know Trustee Lyra does as well. And then as for the sites, Albany High right now is hosting a diversity week. So that's this week, March 21st through the 25th. And yesterday during lunch, we had International Food Day, which was essentially where all these different clubs got to bring in different types of foods. And it was just really interactive and really fun. We got to try a bunch of different foods from different cultures. And then today, outdoor games were hosted. And then I think subsequent days, there'll be other fun lunchtime activities that everyone will get to partake in, everyone meaning the students and the staff. And then I know there's going to be a diversity assembly tomorrow. So any students that might be seeing this, look out for that. There's going to be dance performances. And yeah, it's been a really festive and lively week. And I'm excited for more. And then also juniors and seniors have CASP testing coming up. And so I just wanted to give a quick shout out to Patricia Pope, Ms. Pope. She's in the book room and she's been distributing Chromebooks to students that have had like malfunctioning ones or just need like a switch. And so if you're a student and you don't have a Chromebook that's issued from the school and you're a junior or senior, please make sure to get one from her. And then as for Albany Middle School, they're hosting a Harry Potter night March 25th, so that's this Friday. And the event is being hosted by Dumbledore's Army, who's the AMS chapter of the Harry Potter Alliance. And admission to the event is free, but there will be some crafts and Harry Potter themed concessions that will be available for purchase. And then all of these will be donated, all the proceeds will be donated to charitable organizations that were chosen by Dumbledore's Army, which is the club. And so that's going to be the Transgender Law Center and Consider the Homeless. And then also for that site, spring sports registration is now open. And then for TK through 4th grade students, and then choirs from 5th grades, AMS and AHS, everyone is invited to attend and perform at the AUSD Choir Festival on Saturday, April 23rd, 2022, from 10 a.m. to noon on the Memorial Park outdoor stage. And this program begins with over 300 singers in a traditional round, and then continues with each elementary grade, followed by the choirs from 5th grades, and then AMS and AHS. So I'm really excited to see that when it comes up. Yes, Trustee Doss.
Yes, is there gonna be butter beer at the Harry Potter night?
Of course. Yes, there is. There is going to be butter beer at the Harry Potter night. I know they're also looking for parent volunteers. So if you're interested in,
well, I'm gonna sign up, but I had to confirm the Harry Potter butter beer first. And so now that that's been confirmed, I will volunteer. Absolutely.
yay!
Good times. Great job.
Yep. All right, Trustee Davidson.
Did you say what time that starts? Sorry, apparently we all love Harry Potter.
I'm not sure actually. I'll have to check. I think it's
6 p.m.
6.
6 to
Okay.
8.
6. There we go. 6 to 8.
And apparently
Thank you.
dressing up is encouraged, I've heard. So we should,
Highly encouraged.
wow.
Yep, that concludes my report.
Great, thank you. All right, so now we'll take public comment if there is any on matters not on tonight's agenda. And we have one comment, if I could get the timer. Great. Go ahead, Jeremiah.
Thank you very much, President. Yeah, so my name is Jeremiah, and I was just wanting to raise awareness with a situation that's been going on in Albany it's just happened to be overlooked. That's what I think, actually. It's just been overlooked for far too many years. And it's this thing called school zones. And I know there's a map at the district office of school zones, where you live in Albany, where you go to school. But that's not really the school zones I'm talking about. The school zones I'm talking about is something that's actually, I've been trying to get in the municipal code book for Albany for over 10 years now. So if you go on Google and you type school zones on Google, safety school zones, slower traffic school zones, things like that. Even check up on municipal code books from other cities. Albany is actually one of the only cities in the entire Bay Area that doesn't have school zones in our municipal code book. And we have the best school district in the Bay Area. So it would only make our school district better if Albany adds school zones to our municipal code book. The Transportation Commission hopefully is going to be putting it on the agenda fairly soon and referring it to City Council this year. Let's see. I've got over 800 signatures from parents and teachers a few years back from Solano Stroll. I turned into the city clerk. So just want to raise awareness about school zones for the city of Albany. Thanks.
Thank you. All right. Seeing no other comment, we will move to the first item on our agenda, which is a staff report, our standing AUSD COVID-19 protocol update.
Well, as you know, our staff report is done by our very own, yours truly, Executive Director Alexia Ritchie. And so I turn it over to her at this time.
Thank you, Dr. Wells and President Hinckley and everybody who's joining us tonight. And I certainly will take a hint from the audience's comments earlier and make this short, but make it important, and also try to keep it as positive as possible. Although when we're talking about COVID numbers, we're looking at negative rates. And so just a reminder, our dashboard is updated daily. We update that dashboard within 24 hours of receiving positive confirmation. So please check our AUSD website and that dashboard for some more information on our current rates. And if you could go to the next slide, one of the first things I wanted to celebrate today was the indoor masking recommendations. Now, again, there are strong recommendations for indoor masking. And about a week and 2 days ago, that Monday, we pivoted to this strong recommendation in our district. And having seen what it took to make sure that we had a safe and a respectful transition to a strongly recommended masking indoor policy, I am very pleased to report that our first week of having the option to take masks off indoors on school campuses has been completed without incident. Just an observation, the overwhelming majority of students and staff are continuing to wear masks indoors at all of our school sites, and actually most are also continuing to mask outdoors, except when actually eating or drinking. Once again, Albany Unified School District, this is in conjunction with local public health departments as well as our County Office of Education. We are now strongly recommending masking indoors. And at all schools, more information is being sent out, reminders on this point. We still have high quality masks. In fact, we have lots of high quality masks, and they're available and they can be requested in our school offices. Lunch will remain outdoors for the foreseeable future, which we found provides an excellent break in the school day and is even more pleasant in this beautiful spring weather. And all schools are and will continue to emphasize respect for choices and provide support for family decisions. My next slide will focus on the point that Superintendent Wells brought up. So just a little more information on our take-home iHealth COVID testing distribution. This is specifically designed to support our community during spring break. Regardless of your travel plans, we are going to be able to offer one take-home iHealth COVID testing kit per family. So each of our school sites and the Albany Children's Center will have, again, just a kit or a box ready for every student in advance of the spring break. This is similar to the distribution that we had on January 1st of 2022. A little different though, these are now going to be distributed from each of the school sites. So each of the school sites will be able to communicate probably this Friday what the distribution schedule will be. There will be limited availability at our enrollment center, and that's located at 1216 Solano Avenue. As you recall, there are 2 tests in each kit. It's recommended that families administer a test to each student on Sunday, April 10th or early Monday, April 11th before returning to school. And then there is, again, that second test in the box. And so that's recommended on April 14th, which is that 3 to 5 day window for the sequence of testing, or earlier, please, if any symptoms develop. And students who do test positive or who are ill should not come to school and should contact their front office for some more information about possible independent study. That concludes my short presentation and staff report for today. I'll just make sure I've answered any questions before handing it back to Superintendent Wells.
Yeah, Vice President Duran.
Thank you. I wanted to raise an issue that I feel very strongly about regarding transparency and our communique with the parent community. I'm really happy to hear that even though it's just a strong recommendation, that parents and the kids and the students rather are really being respectful and trying to honor everybody and you know, doing their best at keeping their masks on, even though, you know, they don't have to. I find that very admirable of the students. And, you know, I know that the parents support this. But one of the things I want to be clear is that the parents understand and have the transparency offered by the school district. And specifically what I mean by that is in terms of the county recommendation, it says in terms of, for example, the students that are returning from a COVID case and or students that have been exposed, in the superintendent's communique with the parents on March 9th, he indicates that those students will mask. And in fact, the county says should mask. And I personally feel there's a big difference between should and will. And I think that our parent community should be provided with the exact wording that the county offers. And so I wanted to bring it up because I did reach out and didn't really get a response from the district. And so I'm raising it tonight, and that it's a strong recommendation for me that in any future communication that the superintendent has with the parents, that he notes the specific wording of should as opposed to will.
Duly noted. I must have missed that communication of that request, Vice President Trustee Duran, but thank you for bringing it up as an issue, because we want to make sure we 100% align with the state and the county. And so I'll take ownership of that, but thank you for bringing it to my attention.
And if I could, in response to, thank you for bringing, again, up a very good question. One of the things we've been able to do is actually use that exact language in two pieces of communication in particular. The first one is the dashboard. If you note the past week or so, I've been using different language when it comes to the actions that were taken. In fact, the word should is used in response to all of the positive exposures with an in-school the students should be remasking for 10 days, and we actually give them now the time limit of that 10-day period. That was a suggestion from one of our parent groups. And the second place the community is going to see it is in the positive exposure letter itself. In conjunction with Alameda County, we use their template. So their template is very specific with that language. Therefore, every positive experience that we've had over the past week and a half, we've been using the revised language, and that's very specific then to it should.
Any other questions? All right, we do have a public comment. We can get the timer. Thank you. Go ahead, Jeremiah.
Hi, thank you. Well, you know, I'm no expert or anything, but I do know one thing that I'm 100% sure on, is that while reading the municipal code book for City of Albany, right in the beginning of the municipal code book, in the first paragraph, it says, the word shall, S-H-A-L-L. The word shall will refer to mandatory from here on through the rest of the book. Because I guess the word shall is shorter to type than the word mandatory. Because when certain things are mandatory, for example, like the no smoking on Solano sign for the businesses, it says shall. But anyway, I just want to say real quickly that if the masks were, let's say, mandatory, the word shall, I guess, would be mandatory, but we're using the word should. So I guess the word should doesn't mean mandatory. It's just kind of like you should or you could. You know what? I think we could replace the word should with the word could, because could is a much nicer word than should. Thanks.
Thank you. I don't see any other hands, so that will go on record as our shortest COVID update to date. Thank you very much, Executive Director Ritchie. And so we move to our review and action item for tonight, which is the Albany Middle School Behavior Matrix.
President Hinckley, as you know, at our last meeting, we had review and discussion, and that was a time where we had review and much discussion. And tonight we bring back the Albany Middle School Behavior Matrix as a review and action. And if there is a clarification question or a new question that came up for someone, we have our principal, Deb Brill, here to entertain those questions, but that aside, tonight is for review and action. And at this time, I turn this over to Principal Deb Brill.
You know, we're so early in the agenda that I think she hasn't, I'm not seeing her on the attendees yet.
She's here waiting. I saw that too, and I put in a phone call, and she's here waiting for Ms. Shin to bring her up as a panelist. And I think Ms. Shin is in the process of doing that. So she's here with us. Is that correct, Ms. Shin?
She's not on the attendees, because I could move her in, but I'm not seeing her.
I don't see her either.
Can we go to the next item and then circle back?
Sure. All right, so we'll come back to 11A and move to item 11B, the A3g Improvement Grant, which is, as a reminder, a review and discussion item because we haven't seen this yet.
Yes, tonight we have our A3g Improvement Grant. The state put in a number of funds into block grants, and one of the block grants is the A3g Improvement Grant. Tonight, this is our review and discussion where Dr. Shin, our Assistant Superintendent of Educational Services, will give us some background information and lead some discussions and Q&A for our review and discussion. Dr. Shin.
Thank you so much, Dr. Wells. May I please have the presentation deck, Ms. Shin? Good evening, Superintendent Wells, Board Trustees, Albany community. We are here tonight to learn about the A3g Improvement Grant and to discuss the AUSD plan to utilize this grant funding to improve outcomes for our graduating seniors at Albany High School. Next slide, please. Our presentation tonight will review information about the conception of the A3g Improvement Grant and its requirements. We will also review the definition of A3g completion to better understand the purpose of the grant. Then we will share the current AUSD A3g completion rate, which serves as the baseline data for the plan that has been developed to improve the completion rate. Next slide, please. The A3g Improvement Grant was established by Assembly Bill 130 for the purpose of providing additional supports to school districts to help increase the number of high school students who graduate high school with A3g eligibility. These one-time funds are to be used for activities that directly support pupil access to and successful completion of the A3g course requirements. The goal of this grant is to provide targeted support for students to elevate D and F grades to C or better in order to meet UC and CSU eligibility requirements. D is for diploma and C is for college. Next slide, please. As always, this grant comes with state requirements. We are required to develop and discuss our plan for improvement at a regularly scheduled board meeting by April 1st, which we are doing now. Then we are to adopt this plan at the subsequent board meeting, which will be on April 12th. And before December 31st, 2023, we are to report the impact of this grant plan and expenditure to the Superintendent of Public Instruction. Next slide, please. So what is the A through G completion? It is the successful completion of a sequence of 15 high school courses that serve as the minimal UC-CSU admissions requirement. Students must successfully complete these courses with a grade of C or better in order to be eligible for UC and CSU admissions. The following are the A through G courses and number of years required. A is for history, social science for 2 years. B is for English for 4 years. C is for math for 3 years. D is for laboratory science for 2 years. E is for language other than English for 2 years. F is for visual and performing arts for 1 year. And G is for college preparatory course for 1 year. And again, D is for diploma and C is for college. Students must complete these courses with C or better to be A through G complete. Next slide, please.
Sorry, one moment. Having some problems. There we go.
So what is our baseline data for improvement? Here is the chart that shows our most recent A through G completion rates for the class of 2020 and for the class of 2021. For the class of 2020, the overall rate for all students was 70%. With Asian and white students being at and above that average, while all other groups were below that average, especially for our students with disabilities. Then we saw a decline in the class of 2021 for all students to 64%. Knowing that this decline was experienced during the year of remote instruction, we're able to attribute this outcome to the increased rates of D and F grades during that time. And although we are doing better as compared to the state rate of 44%, we need to do more to continue to increase this eligibility for our students, especially our most underserved students, whose rates continue to be below the all-student average. Our data, which shows improvement for only white students in the 2020-21 school year, clearly demonstrates that the achievement gap widened for all other students during the remote instruction era, which is congruent with the statewide data and the statewide need to mitigate the learning loss and focus on closing the achievement gap. Next slide, please. So what is our plan to increase access and success in these A through G courses? We have developed a two-pronged approach. The first is to implement the Avid program. Advancement via Individual Determination is an in-school academic support program for middle and high school students. The purpose of the program is to prepare students for college eligibility and success. Avid's mission is to close the opportunity gap by preparing all students, especially students who are traditionally underrepresented in higher education, for college readiness and success in a global society. And this mission is accomplished through teacher training that leads to enhanced classroom instruction. In alignment with our professional development mission to improve student achievement by increasing adult learning, Avid's professional learning benefits both beginning and experienced educators. Within the Avid program, educators reevaluate their beliefs and expectations around student potential and learn and practice activities that transform classrooms and campuses. Trainings cover all core content areas and all grade levels in topics such as culturally relevant teaching, academic language and literacy, and digital teaching and learning. Avid also offers a variety of resources in the form of classroom activities, lesson plans, professional learning videos, and timely articles that are relevant to students. These tools help educators implement and refine instructional practices. They also help educators provide the key academic and social support students need to thrive. Our plan is to train a core group of 8 to 16 high school educators in the first year to implement this program. Then we will continue to train more teachers in the subsequent years to add to the collective knowledge and impact. Within this first year, we will also create an Avid elective course to the master schedule of Albany High School, in which selected students will be enrolled for this targeted support. Within this course, students will be taught Avid strategies to improve their academic achievement, as well as increase social emotional skills to successfully complete courses and navigate the school system. The second strategy that we have developed in this plan is to help our students with D's and F's to recover their credits and elevate their grades to C and better by utilizing the CyberHigh courseware. CyberHigh is an online courseware that creates pathways to success through standards-based digital curriculum that fosters critical thinking, provides active and collaborative learning opportunities, and engages students in rigorous coursework. Courses are designed to enhance analytical and problem-solving skills, to increase graduation rates, to prepare students for online testing, and to promote college and career readiness. This curriculum is widely used for original credits, credit recovery and remediation, acceleration, targeted intervention, and as part of blended learning environments. Our plan is to create a section of CyberHigh elective class at Albany High School in the upcoming school year for selected students based on most recent grades data. A dedicated teacher will support identified students to complete their online courses during class time by providing guidance, tutoring, and monitoring their progress. The teacher will also work as case manager for this group of students by providing counseling support and outreach to families. In summary, the Avid strategy will support our students by increasing access to and success in A through G courses. And the CyberHigh strategy will support our students to recover credits and elevate grades to be A through G complete. We believe that the concurrent implementation of these two strategies will result in the improvement of A through G rate at Albany High School. Next slide, please. Here is the expenditure plan for this grant that is aligned to the program plan that was just outlined. AUSD will receive $91,846 this school year to be expended by the 2025-26 school year. And within this parameter, we have developed a 3-year plan to expend this money starting in the 22-23 school year through the 2024-25 school year. In order to carry out our plan, we have allocated $47,587 to the Avid program costs to include teacher training and curriculum resources over the next 3 years. Then we have allocated $23,000 to the cost of the CyberHigh online courseware for the next 2 years. And most importantly, we have allocated $21,259 to staff support for the cost of compensating our educators for their engagement in professional learning, lesson planning, and other professional activities that will take place outside of their workday. Last slide, please. Now that we have developed and presented the district's plan to improve the A through G completion rate at Albany High School, our next steps are to receive approval of this plan at our next board meeting on April 12th. Upon approval, we will begin the contract process with Avid and CyberHigh. Then we will provide professional development training for our teachers in these programs during the summer. And in the fall of 22-23 school year, we will launch the implementation of this approved plan. This concludes our presentation of the A through G Improvement Grant Plan. Thank you so much for your engagement and support.
Thank you. I have, I guess, a couple of questions about, driven by the questions that I asked about some of the data underlying how we will identify students and how, you know, I understand this is really not that much funding, and, you know, we have a program that sounds good, but I think obviously this is a concern that we're going to want to be addressing long past this grant or outside this grant. So if you could just give us what you know, the sort of big picture of what is driving our rates of students that aren't meeting the A through G completion requirements, because I think, especially, I know before I had a kid in high school, I didn't fully understand that, for example, Albany's, just meeting Albany's graduation requirements does not mean that you take all the classes that you need to take to meet the A through G requirements. So there are two things at work here. One is what classes our students decide to take, in particular, whether they decide to take a language, which is not required by Albany, and whether they decide to take math for that third year. So that's one piece of it. And then the other piece is students who do take those classes but are making Ds in them or getting Fs, and then they don't need to retake the class because it's not required for Albany's graduation. So I'd like to understand, you know, one, I know you couldn't bring that data to us tonight in terms of what, you know, if 35% of our students are not meeting these requirements, what percentage of that is because they're simply not taking a language, for example? And then that's a different strategy to encourage students to take a language than a strategy to help them get a C in history as opposed to a D in history. So could you talk us through, I guess, what's this sort of longer term strategy for identifying the students and the why of why we're not at that 100%, if that's what we aspire to, and then how you intend to choose students to focus on for this grant, and then what's the kind of longer term strategy for here, given that there are multiple things at work.
Thank you, President Hinckley, for that thorough explanation. And I have great news to say that our counselor at Albany High School was able to get me that data right before this meeting. So we have come to understand that 44% of our students who are not meeting A through G requirements in this last school year was due to the fact that they had received a D in a course that they were unable to recover in time. They were enrolled in all the appropriate courses, but they were not able to receive that C and above. And 56% of our students did not engage in the A through G coursework at all. So it is very poignant what you're asking, why we need to understand the difference between those two groups. And that is why we are presenting a two-pronged approach plan tonight. So the Avid strategy is really targeted for our students who are not currently accessing those A through G courses. So through Avid strategies, our students will learn determination, will learn soft skills, will learn note-taking skills, a lot of the college-going readiness skills that we know that some of our students shy away from. So that 56% population we're talking about, they will be targeted for the Avid program. And then that 44% that we're talking about that are receiving the Ds or the Fs and have not been able to successfully elevate those grades, we will utilize the strategy of the Cyber High courseware, in which they will have the opportunity to elevate those grades.
Great, thank you. Trustee Doss, I think your hand was up first.
Yeah, so I have a few questions. Dr. Shin, would you prefer I just go through all of them, or should we kind of maybe take one or two at a time? What would you prefer?
Maybe one or two at a time, so I don't forget.
Absolutely, absolutely, absolutely. So my first question is, how do we determine or how do we decide how to spend and split up the funds on the screen where you talked about the 47,000 to 20,000+, 20,000+?
It's based on need, and I think our data that I just shared right now really clarifies the need that we do need to invest more in increasing access and success. Because 56% is in that category who are not accessing the courses currently, which is why we should put a bigger investment in preparing those students for access. And then we have a smaller pot for the courseware, which is to help to recover and elevate the D and F grades. And again, the other pot where we are compensating our teachers, that is very necessary. We know that teacher professional development is the key strategy to improve student outcomes. And so when teachers engage in those types of opportunities outside of their workday, they should be fairly compensated to do so. And so our first plan is to train those teachers this summer with some of that money.
Okay, so, I mean, I understand. I guess it makes sense why, or no, it makes sense like that you're spending money. Like people should be compensated for the work that they do. I guess I'm trying to understand how we determined that this was the best course or this was the best way to split up these funds. Is this how we've like always done it traditionally, or is this a new approach? Or
This is definitely a new approach. And what is great about this approach is that we are creating 2 courses during the school day. As we talked about, many of our intervention strategies are ineffective because we are asking our students to engage in them outside of their school day. So by creating these dedicated course sections in which students will be enrolled in as a part of their master schedule means, one, they will have to attend. This is not necessarily a choice for them. And 2, because they will be led by dedicated trained teachers, they will have more opportunities to get the support that they need to successfully complete these courses.
I see. So the second part of that question is, why do students participate or not participate in the A3g coursework? And we talked about the demographics and the students that are doing well versus the students that aren't doing as well. Can you talk a little bit about kind of what gets these students kind of on track to kind of sign up for this and participate in this versus, kind of not being on this track?
First and foremost, not every student wants to go directly to a 4-year higher institution setting. There are multiple pathways to higher education, as well as career attainment and active citizenry. And we don't prescribe just one pathway. So if you're not looking to go to a UC or a CSU directly out of high school, you don't necessarily need to meet the A through G requirement. You can go the community college route or go private school route, other routes that does not require the A through G requirement as a minimum admissions requirement. So that's one reason some students may not choose to engage in those coursework, because they're already have determined that they'd like to go another pathway and another route. And secondly, there are 2 courses that are more rigorous than in our high school graduation requirement. That's the requirement of world language and the 3rd year in math. And according to studies and research, those 2 courses, math and world language, tend to be what we call gatekeeper courses, courses that especially for students with disabilities or special needs, have a very, very challenging time completing. And I know this because I did a deep study into this when I led the College and Career Department in West Contra Costa, in thinking about perhaps shifting the graduation requirement to mirror the A through G requirement. But that was not a viable option or a pathway, because again, that would create unnecessary barriers for students with special needs. Again, research showing that they create unnecessary barriers for those students. And at the very least, we want to make sure that they graduate with a high school diploma. So there are historical and current reasons why some of these courses may not be as accessible to some of our students, but that's exactly what we're trying to do differently now. We are trying to broaden that access to try to provide more opportunities and the skills that they need, and also the belief. That's what we talked about is one of the #1 philosophies of Avid, changing and shifting the mindsets of not only the adults, but the students about their belief in their readiness for college and their ability to actually be a college student. So again, we understand the traditional and historical data, but we're really trying to shift that with these new strategies that we're implementing with this grant money.
In addition to that, let me add, in addition to that, we are going to be having much more discussion with myself and special ed about looking at some options as we look at maybe having A through G as a primary focus and an opt-out as an additional strategy. So we're going to be having ongoing discussions about how, in addition to the strategies that are presented before you, how to increase the A through G completion rate. As you just heard, some students may opt out for good reason, and it could be multiple reasons, but it should be a family decision. But I think as a learning institution, we should have A through G as part of our high standards for all. And so we're going to have more discussions about that. Nothing is final. What you're hearing in part is some philosophies and some thoughts around that, but not the complete thoughts. I have my own philosophical viewpoint about how to do this, and we'll weigh in the immediate future. Dr. Biggs has his with special ed. And so more to come on these philosophical differences, and then a decision we have to eventually make moving forward.
Excuse me. I appreciate everything that's been said. I have some additional questions, but I'll save those additional questions because I see that other trustees have their hands up and I want to be respectful of time. But I have to say one thing before I relinquish the time here, which is there's one thing that I can say that I 100% can say without any doubt in my mind, which is I believe in every single student that's enrolled in the Albany Unified School District. And I believe that every single student in this district can be successful. Now, some students learn differently. I understand that. And some students might approach things in a different way. But the one thing that every student in this district has in common is that I believe in them wholeheartedly, 100%. I also believe that we are not collectively doing the job that needs to be done for each and every one of those students that I'm talking about, which I believe in, because each and every one of those students can and will do amazing things. But it is our job to make sure that we put them in the positions to win. And this current plan that has been presented this evening, I don't think it puts all of the students in a position to win. Now, I'm not saying that in a way where I'm like trying to like, you know, throw anybody under the bus or attack anybody in any way. That's not what I'm saying. But I'm saying that I believe in every single student. And I don't think that we need to make excuses for students based on, well, the statistics show that these students aren't supposed to do well. Well, the statistics show that these students aren't supposed to do well. Students can't take those statistics and put that with their college application to get accepted. Like I understand that it might be happening in other places. And I understand that if you like take the average and this is the average. But what I'm saying is, I don't think that any of that helps to solve the problem, which is students with special education, students that look like me, and based on the stats, students that are not white and Asian students are not as successful in this district as they're supposed to be. And that's just point blank, not how it should be. And I don't think that presenting statistics that other districts are also failing those students makes it right or makes it better. I don't think that should be like a justification of it. And I don't know if we should approach it like, okay, there's a certain amount of students that aren't doing well, so we should change how we should like change it to make it to where, oh, well, then let's just not even sign those students up at all because they're not going to pass the class. Well, no, we should fix how we teach the class so that those students can do well and be successful and pass the class. That's where we have to stop shifting the blame, and shifting the accountability. We often shift the accountability onto the student, but it's not their responsibility. It's ours. And so I'll end with that. I have some additional questions, but I know others have questions, so we can kind of double back and I'll ask my questions later. Thank you.
So if I may just clarify, Trustee Zoss, I apologize if I misspoke somehow. I really believe you and I are saying the same thing. This grant funding and our strategy is targeting our most underserved students, the students that should have access and should have success in these courses that are traditionally and historically not seeing that. Those are the students that we are going to focus on. Those are the students who will be receiving the services as a result of this grant funding. Again, that is the state's vision, and that is the Albany Unified vision. And I was not saying the counter to that at all. If anything, this money will allow us to focus on our African-American students, our Latino students, our students with disabilities, our English learners, all of those students that you see that are under the average of the white and Asian students are the students who will be the focus of this grant funding. So again, I apologize if I said something that sounded different. That is not the case at all.
Thank you. Vice President Duran.
Okay, thank you. I'm actually very excited, right? That's positive for part of this program. And the Avid sounds, you know, anytime teachers are given professional development, we know that while we may be thinking about certain students, like you just referred to, Dr. Shin, at the same time, PD impacts on all kids. If it's well done and the teachers go back to the classroom, every single child that teacher has will be impacted by what they learned in that professional development. So I'm really excited about that. It sounds like it's a good program. I don't know anything about it, but it sounds like from the way you've described it, that it's really going to be powerful. The concern that I do have is with the cyber high. And I did ask some questions about it earlier, but I kind of want to go back to it because we saw during the COVID year, when our kids were online, that even when they had their own classroom teachers, they did not do as well academically. We know kids, students, you know, social, emotional, as well as academics were lowered, right? Those standards came down. And so now we're proposing that students with the D's and F's go right back to that kind of learning that they had before, which is remote learning, or it is not.
It is not, because they will be sitting in a classroom with a teacher. But but they will be engaging in an online courseware. Why this strategy is powerful and needed is because students can be failing or getting D's in multiple different courses. And we do not have the ability to, let's say, create a section, a class of 30 students in just math, let's say. So we would have a hodgepodge of students needing to recover math, English, social science, various courses, which is why utilizing an online courseware is the most effective way to service all of those students at once. But the difference is it's not distance from the teacher. They're sitting in that same classroom with the teacher who will be supporting them to successfully complete all of the coursework. And this teacher will also serve as a case manager in which she can make, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to say she, they communicate directly with families and really do that individual counseling and tutoring support. So this is very different from distance learning.
Okay, I did understand about the support teacher. I didn't understand it was directly in a classroom. So there will be a classroom at the school, and instead of having an elective period, for example, those students will be channeled automatically into a cyber high class course.
Yes.
And does the teacher address the questions and issues of the students? Because how does one teacher address science and math and English, social studies, etc.?
Sure. Yes, that's a great question, because you're right. None of us can be experts in everything. None of us are content experts. At the same time, as educators, I think our job is to really show our students how to find the answer. That's what critical thinking skills are all about. And today we have wealth of resources and information out there where any one of us can research a topic at any given moment. It's at our fingertips, right at our computer. So again, any one of our highly qualified teachers would be able to support amply enough to help direct the students to get the information. But at the same time, because it is on campus and because it will be one of our teachers, that teacher will have access to their colleagues of all of the different content subject experts, where they can collaborate with them to provide additional support needed in the content.
Is it just a part-time teaching position? How many students are going to be in the classroom at the same time? Because we have over 160 students? Is that I don't remember the numbers that were put out there today.
That had the D's and F last school year. And no, and not all of those students would be in this section. So again, a lot of these students will be serviced through the Avid program. So we would have a dedicated section of Avid where, let's say, about 30 students would be in that course, but other teachers would be trained in the Avid strategies, and these other students would benefit from it doesn't matter what the content is. It could be a math teacher who has the Avid training. It could be an English teacher, and any student within those courses would benefit from that learning. And so really we're talking about roughly 30 kids in the Avid core course during the school day, as well as that cyber high elective course. So that's about 60 students who we may be able to service through those dedicated courses.
And what about the remainder of the students that have had the D's and the F's and are trying to make up?
So we are also planning for summer school already. We normally offer summer school for students to be able to recover their credits. But we're really thinking of broadening that a bit this school year, especially if we have the cyber high courseware. By then, we really believe we will be able to serve a lot of those students during the summertime.
Oh, that's great. Okay, thank you so very much.
Trustee Davidson, you had your hand up, but then it went down. I wanted to give you a chance before we move to the public.
No, Vice President Duran asked all my questions. It was great.
All right, so let's go to public comment and then we'll come back. Great, thank you. Starting with our own Linda Williams, go ahead.
Hello, good evening, everyone. I just wanted to speak on the A through G requirement, just based on my own experience as an educator and as a parent. It is very important for our students to receive the A through G curriculum. It gives them choices, as Trustee Doss said, and in my experience as an educator, I've worked with students in special ed who have successfully graduated high school, completing an A through G curriculum. I myself attended a high school that was strictly A through G. Well, back then it was A through F. but I truly believe that if I didn't have that education, I may not have gone straight to a four-year college when I graduated. Having a strictly A through G curriculum does provide students with choices. They can decide to go to a community college or go to a four-year college, but we're not giving up on them. We're giving them the options and giving them the ability to make their own choices. I also have experience professionally with Cyber High. It is a great program. It does definitely fill that gap for students who need that extra time to retake a test, or to retake a course. In my previous school, we used it for summer school because we didn't have staff to accommodate all of the students that need summer school. I was also a case manager for Cyber High, so I know firsthand how successful that program can be. And I'm also very excited about Avid. I think it will be a great addition to Albany High to give students that opportunity to achieve their goals. Whether they choose to go to a four-year college or go straight to a two-year, we're giving them the opportunity to make that choice for themselves, not saying that this is what you have to do because you didn't take the A through G courses.
Great, thank you so much. Go ahead, Emily.
Hi, thank you. I wanted to say, I want to appreciate Trustee Dawson, Trustee Duran's questions tonight, because they were some of my questions. I'm pretty surprised at what I'm hearing tonight. And so I just wanted to offer a little bit, one, historical knowledge that the board, not this board, but other boards in the past have taken up the idea of A through G as graduation requirements and have tossed that around before. And there have been a lot of complications in how to make that happen for a lot of students. So I'd invite the board to sort of look into the history of that. Cyber High, and I want to echo Trustee Duran's question. So what I heard Director Shin say was that, I'm a humanities teacher as an example. I've been in the district since I think it's the 07-08 school year. I can't answer kids' questions on physics and calculus and math 2 and physical science and all that stuff. I mean, I can try, I can use my good brain and I can try to use my time outside of class or whatever, but I'm not that teacher. And that feels really complicated to me. And I think that we've really got to do a lot before we just tell teachers that this is your job and this is what you're going to do. That feels really complicated to me. And I'm surprised to hear that. And I did also work in a school in West Oakland that used Avid. And I understand the merits of Avid. And I also understand that it's very, sort of scripted and directive. And that's very different from a lot of what we're used to. And so I just ask that we take a collaborative approach in how these things can happen in a way that could work. And yeah, I guess I want to express surprise in what I'm hearing and ask that if we want things to work, we got to work together to make it happen. Thank you very much.
Thank you. All right, I don't see any other public comment. So Dr. Shin, I don't know if you want to respond a little bit to some of the, I guess, concern or questions just about the Cyber High model, just so that we're all understanding how that's going to interact, how the teachers are going to be interacting with that model, given what you know about the students that are going to be identified and targeted for that particular program.
So I worked in direct collaboration with Principal McNally on this plan. And this is something that he had already, a lot of it already envisioned. And to be honest, I believe he has specific educators already in mind that would be able and willing to take on these roles, understanding their skill set and their ability and their willingness to, again, navigate through challenging situations. So I definitely understand the educator's comment about not being an expert in physics. I would think none of us are in this space. And so I too would not feel I guess, qualified to necessarily teach physics to a student. At the same time, I believe I could provide the right resources and information to lead that student to get those answers. Again, looking at the course curriculum together, whether it be the assessments. And again, once again, as an educator in that place, I would definitely reach out to my colleagues for specific support if I needed specific content information. And I really do believe that Principal McNally really thought this through as he identifies the staff that could lead this work.
Great, thanks. Vice President Duran.
I'd like Trustee Davidson to go first since I spoke earlier.
Thank you. So I just want to go back to what Emily said and what Trustee Duran brought up, or Vice President Duran brought up before, but I am really concerned. You know, we're asking for teachers to support this online curriculum. I've done that before in the past, and I also have a broad knowledge base of subject material. And we're talking about 30 kids in a classroom who have a really high level of need. So I am concerned that we would be able to actually meet this. And is this a plan that we're just going to do for 1 year, kind of see how it goes, and then reassess?
Yes, I think with any new strategy, we should definitely be monitoring its effectiveness and reevaluating it if it's not deeming to produce the outcome that we really want. At the same time, I don't think we can wait. We do have this money. We have this opportunity, and we really do want to be able to address both sets of those needs that President Hinckley started this meeting with. Again, the group of students who are not currently accessing the courses, and the group of students who are not getting the grades that they need to get to successfully complete them. And so again, we believe that these two strategies are what needs to be implemented with the amount of money that we have. $91,000 over 3 years is not a lot of money. If the board or the audience has other ideas about how we can better utilize this amount of money, Principal McNally and I are open to the suggestions.
Well, in addition to that, it's hard to do the work, but most importantly is a response to our data. And finally, I want to be clear, when it comes to intervention classes or safety net classes, this is called a safety net class. We make sure those classes are small. We don't fill them to 30. We make sure they're small and very manageable so that we can give our kids a second opportunity to be successful and sometimes a third opportunity.
It would be great if we could get feedback. Okay, sorry, it's really loud in my house. If we could get feedback from whoever is teaching this course at some point in the next year, so we could really hear how it's going and just see from that, and maybe if we could get any feedback from those students, how helpful they find it as we give this a trial run in our district.
And I can add here, as a high school principal for about 10 years, and using Cyber High, the feedback we've gotten from our students, it was a difference maker for them going to a 4-year college and not going. And so I imagine with that kind of research that we have available out and about on the internet and our own anecdotal experience, it's already a proven program and long overdue. And so I fully endorse moving forward. More importantly, that we evaluate the program annually so we can make adjustments based on kids' needs. But that data that we're currently looking at, although people may say, whoa, but it looks good compared to Bay Area data, it's not satisfactory for our high standards. And we want to give all kids an opportunity. And so you got to start with the plan. And the plan may not be perfect, but it would be a plan that would engage in what we call a cycle of continuous improvement, where we evaluate and adjust based on kid needs. And also, as Trustee Davidson said, it's important to get the students' feedback as well, along with the teachers and the raw data.
Vice President Duran.
Trustee Davidson took my question that time, which really was about evaluation. And Dr. Shin, could you sort of describe more in detail for the board what the evaluation will look like?
I think the best evaluation is student outcome. How are our students doing? Are they successfully able to complete the coursework with a C or better grade? That's what we're looking for. Are they actually actively learning? Are they feeling as if they are gaining the skills and the mindset necessary for college preparedness? So again, it will be based on our student outcomes. And we can also obviously survey or ask our students how they feel about the course and their success within it.
Was there a requirement from the state? I mean, I saw that it said that the state did require or the element of the evaluation. I'm wondering if they highlighted certain elements that needed to be included, or if it's basically the district determining what those would be.
Well, basically it would be the improvement of our A through G rate. That the state is always looking for just that type of baseline number.
Okay, thank you.
Sorry, my computer was not letting me unmute myself. Trustee Doss, go ahead.
Yeah, President Hink, I thought you were just trying to like avoid my question.
Nope.
I kind of wanted to, well, first I wanted to kind of follow up. Well, not, I shouldn't say follow up, but I heard, comments that everybody, said, and it sounds like this program is good and that it has, had some good reviews and things of that nature. I guess my question is, so currently we're sitting at 44% of students that aren't where we would like them to be, based on the numbers that we just looked at, right? So if it's 44% that aren't where we want them to be, then that means that there's an overwhelming number of students that are, well above the average or whatnot. And so for the 40+%, there's interventions and, we should implement different things of that nature, right? To, try and help these students. We can't leave these students behind. I guess what my question is what if it was the reverse? What if it was these students, the higher percentage that weren't doing well? Would we implement interventions to help those students, or will we say, wait a minute, this isn't working. We got to revamp this whole thing because there's too many students that aren't doing well. We have to provide a different approach because there's too many students that aren't doing well. But because the students that we're talking about are not the majority, the discussion is always around implementing additional interventions, which is additional work on teachers that are already overworked and underpaid, right? Or additional, as was stated before, additional time for the student kind of outside of the regular class day, which is how it traditionally was, but we're changing that because we're kind of trying to incorporate it into their school day, which is already jam-packed, right? So then where are we pulling them from? Are we pulling them from a different class where if they're already not doing well in one subject, we're pulling them from a different class. So then is that going to affect their success in that class? So there's only so much time in the day. And the student is already has a lot, on their plate. So do we continue to unload more interventions and let's kind of fix it, or do we take a look at the overall and say, hey, maybe we need to change the kind of overall approach? And so what made me kind of think about that is we don't have a large number of students in this, the percentage is high, but we have a small number of students because we're a small district. So it might be a possibility for Albany specifically for the plan and the approach to be more individualized. Because do we even have 91 students that we're talking about? Or is it like a smaller number? Because we don't have like a lot of students in the district overall. So maybe the approach and the plan can be more individualized because we have such a small number. And then we can really kind of take a deep dive into each student and figure out kind of where we're at. Or maybe we look at the program and say, okay, maybe we need to change, this approach. I don't know the exact plan, but I know that it has to be something completely different than what's traditionally been happening, because we've traditionally been in this achievement gap for like a long period of time. And so, but those are just kind of things to think about. If the roles were reversed, would the approach be the same or would it be different? And however it will be different, maybe we need to think about that. My other question is, it sounds like there's a timeline in which this needs to be discussed and then brought back and then approved and then implemented within a certain amount of time before we miss like the deadline. And so I'm wondering why we brought this back where it only leaves us one more meeting to pass it before we kind of get pushed on that, deadline, versus maybe having this at the previous meeting or the meeting before that, which would give us more time to kind of discuss. And maybe we wanted to kind of go back or make, kind of big changes. Because at this point, we can't really like make any changes because we need to bring it back to the next meeting, vote, and then implement things, from my understanding. And if I'm wrong, please jump in.
So unfortunately, the state has been delayed on releasing their allocations. And we just, and I believe CBO Kim presented that at the last, at our last meeting. We were just granted this money literally a couple of weeks ago. So as soon as we understood that we received this, we were eligible to receive this money, is when Principal McNally and I started to collaborate to develop this plan. So unfortunately, we had no choice but this short turnaround time due to the state releasing the funds so late before the deadline.
Were you, I think Superintendent Wells started to say something as well. I don't know if you were going to say the same thing or wanted to add to that.
Well, I wanted to kind of accurately characterize how we schedule a kid's course. And we have a paradigm shift where we move by giving kids their courses and classes based on their needs. And that does mean those kids who fail and how we would schedule their class so that we're not adding more work to their load and making it even a greater impossibility to complete the goal of A through G and or graduation. And I think that should be discussed because we do a lot of things internally and we only have so much time in a board meeting to explain everything we do in the school. But I think it's important to note that our scheduling has shifted to scheduling kids based on their needs. For example, if a kid needs to have cyber high, we try to incorporate that into their schedule and not try to make their schedule more labor intense, because that would defeat the purpose. So I think Trustee Doss brought up a good point, but I did want to share that we work really hard at making this part of a kid's schedule, moving towards that individualism, if you will, based on a kid's needs, more of a systemic approach to addressing a concern. But we do have discussions and collaboration beyond the board meeting about how to do that, one of which is our Student Achievement Committee, where we are grappling with and will be ready to come with a recommendation sometime in June around how we should respond to our current data, some of which we presented tonight. And so I wanted the board and the community to know that this is something we grapple with, not when we just present at a board, but as part of our daily work and with parents who are becoming more active in our committee. And so that's pretty much it.
Great, thank you. So I was curious if the A through G gap, in addition to the sort of broader college readiness gap, is something that the Student Achievement Committee will be taking up and bringing some recommendations forward, because that seems like a logical place for that conversation to happen in a deeper way. And I do think I would really love to see the data that you start to pull on, you know, in particular on the issue of which students don't enroll in the classes that are needed to meet that requirement. And you talked a little bit in here about counseling in the proposal, but I think that's another piece of this is how, you know, when students sit down in 8th grade, 9th grade, 10th grade to pick their classes, you know, what is the tone of that conversation from the counselors? How are parents given information about, hey, if you don't sign up for a language in 9th grade, you know, you're going to be, here's how that path, you know, I really appreciate what Ms. Williams said about, you know, thinking about what options are foreclosed when you don't take certain steps early on. So I think that's another piece I'd like to hear more about is just, again, we keep saying we're driven by data, but I'd really like to see the data, you know, what percentage of our students do not enroll in a world language, for example, at any point in their time at Albany High, because that is probably one of the biggest drivers of that number that you gave us of the percentage that do not enroll in the A through G series. So just knowing some pieces of that and then thinking about what are all the points at which we can influence that perception or choice that kids are making about what am I capable of? What's my path? What are my options? What steps can I take? Because I think we've had a lot of conversations about once students are in a class, how do we help them succeed, right? But we haven't really had much of the conversation yet about how do students begin to choose paths in high school and what actions are we taking to make sure we're really supporting students, all students, in pursuing the options that will keep as many paths open for them as possible. And for some of this, it happens before high school, right? If you don't enroll in a language in 7th grade, then you're on a different path than the kids that do that and arrive at high school with a year of language already under their belt. And I know next week when we have the math workshop, we can certainly take up the question of who drops math after 2 years, who's struggling to get a C in those 3 years of math. And so we have an opportunity for that conversation as well. But I think this is a great start. And I think that would be great to hear if the Student Achievement Committee could take up some of that analysis and bring it back to us later this year. But I really appreciate all the thinking that's going into all the different ways we can use what seems like a lot of money, but isn't really that much money, 90,000 over 3 years, but it's been a great way to start this conversation. So, I'm not hearing strong direction from the board for you to do something different when you bring this back on the 12th, but if you need more guidance from us, or if board members have any last direction you want to give before this comes back to us on the 12th. All right, so we will see this as a review and action item next time. So again, there'll be another opportunity for a little bit more discussion and public comment, but we'll expect to see this same type of proposal. Trustee Das, did you want to comment on this? And then we'll move to the next item.
Yeah, I mean, in the interest of time, we could move on to the next item, but I would like to dive in a little deeper around kind of what goes into the 3 parts of the funding, you know, kind of the proposal that was presented. We don't have to do it all right now. We can, you know, kind of, you know, dive. I just really want to understand, excuse me, sorry, kind of the approach, because I don't know if I'm really kind of putting together what's in place and how it's going to help bring the, like, put the students where we want, how it's going to change the trajectory of what's already happening. I'm trying to understand, like, we have certain students that just, like was just mentioned, aren't signing up for certain classes, or don't understand kind of, if I make this decision now, I don't know how many students and families are putting together, if I make this decision in 7th grade, it's going to affect me in 9th grade or 10th grade or 11th grade. And so I'm just trying to understand, like, the whole correlation, right? Like, because if I take a foreign language in 7th grade, right, I don't know how many students are thinking, okay, if I take this one, then how is it going to affect me, in high school, or what college I'm going to? And then I don't know how many students know in 9th grade if they're going to go to a UC or a community college, so it's just a lot of questions and information. And I'm not sure that there's a really kind of clear process and path on how students and families get all of the information so that they can make the best and most informed decision. And then once they do make that decision, the support available so that they can successfully complete whatever path they decide, not whatever path is decided for them based on statistics and numbers, if that makes sense. Like, I want to be where a student says, I want to go to UC Berkeley, and then we say, here's the path, we'll get you there, and that's it. Versus, I want to go here. Okay, well, based on this, this, and this, maybe this is a better path, or maybe that's not the best option, or based on the, And so I guess I'm just trying to kind of understand, so that, for example, once this is completed, once we approve this, and once we move forward, if a parent approaches me and says, I would like to do this, this, and this is what I'm thinking, here's my student, then I have a clear understanding of, this is the path, this is where you would need to go, this is how that would work, and this is how AUSD helps you get there. I hope that that's making sense. I don't want it to be like you have to, like, attend every board meeting to understand how to navigate this for your student in order for them to maximize all the opportunities available, right? Because there's only 31 people on this meeting right now, but there's over 3,000 students within AUSD. So how do we make sure that every student understands the different tracks, the language, the math requirements, and then once they do understand that, how do we make sure that every student has everything they need in order to successfully complete all of those, and complete them with a C or better, where we don't have D's and F's, right? So, we talked about that before. But anyway, we don't have to dive into all that right now, but those are the things where I'd like to have a more clear path and a clear understanding of that, and how this 91,000 helps us get there.
Two things, if I may, two things. I want to delineate between an opportunity to get a grant, hence seed money, to start addressing the data, and to the bigger comprehensive picture around that we need to have in the immediate future discussion around A through G and who would complete that. And also consider some proposals that may be coming in the immediate future that may be radical in nature, but long overdue. And I think this goes to your point, Trustee Doss. Let's take, for example, the African-American students. Why not, as a pilot, have the historically disenfranchised students program be A through G? And parents have to opt out in order not to have that, because as a 9th graders, you don't fully understand, generally speaking, because of lack of experience, what it is you really want to do. And then you fast forward to 11th grade and you wish you were on the A through G track, but you weren't really thinking about it because of the lack of exposure, things of that sort. So I think a deeper conversation in the immediate future, Trustee Doss, to your point, is warranted. But I do want to separate the grant that's going forward from the ongoing conversation and the comprehensive A through G curriculum that we have to talk about, how we make it for all students, and maybe consider for a great discourse an opt-out program in the future where students opt out, but it's by default that you have an A through G. Therefore, everybody has that opportunity to have an A through G curriculum. But I agree that we don't have enough time tonight, and it warrants more discussion about the completion of a comprehensive process regarding A through G. And as one of our teachers, I think Emily Sorwitz said, it would be helpful for us to look at the historical conversation prior to us diving in and looking at our options for opportunities for all kids. Thank you, Madam President.
Yeah, thank you. So we will certainly be getting more into this topic. Again, would be great for the Student Achievement Committee to focus on this, since it is the ultimate sort of measure of that achievement gap, opportunity gap. But in the meantime, we will await this item coming back to us on the 12th as an action item, and starting to continue that conversation next week in the math workshop. So we're done with that, unless Dr. Shin, you have anything else you need from us? Okay, so we'll move to our, we'll move back on the agenda to our review and action item for tonight, the Ams Behavior Matrix. And now we have Principal Brill with us. Sorry, now you ended up waiting for us. So thank you for your patience.
Yes, I was on the wrong link apparently. And okay, Ms. Floresca's here with us as well. So I'm not sure if there's someone else introducing the item, but we were here a few weeks ago, and we are back with the review and action with the hopes of our updated behavior matrix being approved.
And I guess we just jump into the Q&A since we already had the review and discussion. Are there any additional Q&A prior to President Hinckley receiving a motion for approval?
Yeah, Vice President Duran.
Principal Brill, I just wanted to ask you around, will you be going back to kind of looking, since this is a new matrix for you, at some point to sort of evaluate it, to see what are any rough spots there? And do you do that just with staff, or is it part of the committee of parents that you meet with as well?
Thank you so much for that question. I would say there's a couple of ways that I would look at that. One is that we are always looking at updating and revising and refining our matrix. And one of the things that happens in my meetings with Ms. Floresca is that as we're discussing disciplinary pieces that are coming up through our teachers, through discussions that we're having with parents, through our student services meetings, when something feels like it's off, or we're having a student that's repeatedly showing up. So it means that the kind of educational and restorative pieces are not yet changing that behavior. So when there's pieces like that, we're constantly discussing and then making notes on the matrix. And as part of our process at the end of every year, if not sooner, we're making shifts and revisions and changes. And sometimes the matrix also isn't specific, because we really lean on the matrix in order to be equitable in practices, which means that we need to have the things that are showing up in there. And sometimes they don't show up in the ways that they need to. And so we are constantly looking to revise and refine based on kind of information that we are receiving and discussions that we're having with all of our stakeholder groups.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Whoops, I'm muted. Any other questions? I don't see any public comments. So if there aren't any, we can also take a motion on this item.
I move that we approve this dynamic behavior matrix program for Albany Middle School.
I second that.
Okay, student trustee Dana?
Yes.
Thank you. And I see that student trustee Lyra is here now. So I'll take your vote.
Yes.
Thank you. Vice President Duron?
Yes.
President Hinckley?
Yes.
Trustee Boyd?
Yes.
Trustee Davidson?
Yes.
Trustee Doss?
Yes.
Great, thank you.
Great. The AMS Behavior Matrix, item 11A, passes unanimously. Thank you for waiting for that. And we look forward to seeing how you can communicate that out to families. And it's great, great shift to have something that really reflects all of our values. So thank you for all the work you've put in onto that. And we are now out of items. So we are, we are, sorry, I made a little slide with the next few agenda. There we go. Items. So we have a special workshop next week on the math department. And then we have spring break. And then our next regular board meeting, the main items are going to be our part 2 of the teacher recruitment and retention update, a presentation about the Cougar Field renovation, the 2023-24 school year calendar, and then the action item for the A3g Improvement Grant. And then we have another special workshop on April 19th on the budget. And our following regular board meeting, the primary item will be the comprehensive school safety plans, which will come back to us at that meeting. And we still have a workshop to schedule on the Albany Children's Center. So that is not an exhaustive list of agenda items, but just so that you have a little preview. So with that said, are there any other future agenda items that anyone wants to add? Yeah, Vice President Duran.
I thought you were indicating that we had few agenda items. So I have a list. Let me just throw out some of these and see if they resonate. I would like us to have a review and discussion about the academic support resources that our 2 principals mentioned at our last meeting, or at the last DNF meeting. If we could have that officially on the agenda to discuss it. I don't know, President Hinckley, if you kind of want to part with the board budget workshop, but anyway, I just wanted to put it out there. I wanted to know if we have on the agenda going forward the FAST Bridge, the second, I don't know what it's called, the second test that took place already and the results of that. I'm assuming at some point we'll get an update on summer school and what that's going to look like. And certainly a focus on our DNF kids, students, and what they're going to be getting out of it. Principal academic asks, I don't know what that is. Anyway, I wanted to put on how the block schedule is working at AMS and AHS, you know, some kind of evaluation from the principals and staff, or survey, whatever. And I just wanted a reminder that I had asked to be on the agenda at some point, a review of the time schedule for AMS. You know, if going to a later time schedule was more helpful for both the students and traffic, whatever. So that was another item I had mentioned a ways back. So that's it for now. Thank you.
So I know the middle school did do a family survey and student survey of the block schedule. So I think they're still making some decisions about that. And then the start time could be part of that discussion. Anything else? All right. Well, with that, we are adjourned, and I will see everybody next Tuesday at our math workshop, which makes it